In true me fashion, it is almost 1 in the morning. I was getting ready to go to bed tonight, and I read through every comment that is ever left for me on YouTube. Don't always have a chance to reply because I'm usually reading in bed while Ryan's asleep and I can't clickety-clack while he's next to me. He gets very agitated about that. But tonight was the first night that I really could go through all of the comments on my last vlog, and I don't know if I've ever been so like kind of taken aback by the way that the comments have gone, and I mean that in the best way. In my mind, that video was supposed to come across like, hey, we're doing a fun thing and I want you to be involved because you're my friends and you guys have good ideas, and so I want to hear your good ideas. What are your cool thing good ideas? I did not realize how much support you guys would send, and in so many different directions. I was completely floored and so excited by all of the Pinterest boards you've created and the different pins you've sent me, the links you've written, the mock-up like design plans that you guys created, and people worked in the IKEA house planner and then also different house design apps, and all of them. When they started coming in, I was like, people are doing this? I didn't expect it at all. Honestly, I wasn't even sure I was gonna get a lot of pictures of things sent. I thought people would just like write, here's what I would do, and a couple of sentences in the comments. So you guys know that I'm kind of an emotion kind of person. I cry with joy and sadness quite easily. We're not gonna do that tonight, okay? If that comes on, we'll take a pause and collect ourselves because I've cried enough on the internet. Instead of responding in comment form, I just sat there frozen and thought, I'm just gonna make a video. And the reason I wanted to, so I've got all my like comments and stuff up here. Is that distracting? We'll close it. You guys reached out with a level of support as if you knew the whole story, and there's so many things that I haven't shared just out of, you know, wanting to protect our vulnerability and just that it's not fun to talk about it. You've always been my escape. I don't want to turn on the camera and be like, rehash all the hardships. In reading through the comments on the kitchen remodel, I realized that a lot of you glommed onto the fact that I was like, oh, we can't afford to have new appliances, and I hate this one and I hate that one. I meant it to be like chit chat. We're just chatting, you guys, not something that I need anyone to fix for me. We'll figure out how to fix it. And I'm totally optimistic about that. I don't feel bad that we're gonna have to live with those appliances for a little while longer. I mean, I really don't feel bad at all. I'm thrilled that we're gonna have a dishwasher. All I see is good stuff. We're going from a situation that's already tolerable for me, like I'm happy with that kitchen, to something so much better. It's like my cup is already full and now it's just getting like topped with whipped cream and cherries. So crappy stove, who gives a shit? I'm gonna have a dishwasher. I haven't had one of those in my entire life. It's all goodness. So from reading through your comments on the kitchen and like going from the stove and then unwinding myself emotionally, I just realized you guys are here and you're always supportive and you don't know the whole picture, and I just want to fill in those gaps. Because this is an on-the-fly vlog that I didn't plan at all, I think I'll push the weekly bit back to maybe Wednesday or Thursday, and we can also do Luca's birthday video if you'd rather have that first. You pick Luca's birthday vid or the weekly bit. You tell me. Down there, player's choice. I don't really have a plan here. I just had this pull of wanting the people who've always been there and been so supportive and felt like extended family now. That's what you guys really do feel like to me. Just wanting you to have the whole picture. So that does mean filling in the blanks, and a lot of the blanks are sad because those are the parts I just didn't want to talk about. You know, I would live my life each day, and then when I come to you, I don't want to rehash all the sadness. I would want to talk about the highlights and maybe give a little blip, like dip a toe in some of the hardship stuff. It's pretty tricky to not come off as a sob story, and I don't want that. I just want my friends to be filled in on the whole picture. 2 years ago, when my mom was living about 20 minutes away from us, I would go over there several times a week, and the transportation back and forth was ridiculous, and I would make sure she was okay, and I would prepare meals for her, and then I would constantly call throughout the week to make sure she was all right. She was on some medications that caused narcolepsy, and it just really is not safe for her to be living on her own. So I was constantly anxious. Keep in mind that aside from my marriage and the family I was creating on my own, my mother is all I had as a tie to my past, my history, my own family, my identity of up until I got married. So she was like my last link. You can imagine the stress that was going on. She was constantly on an amputation watch for her legs. There were a lot of scary issues that happened with her, and some of them included severe blood loss that Ryan and I had to like tend to, and really, really extreme things that we went through. So we started talking about a year before she ever moved in with us about needing to relocate either ourselves or her or all of us together, or something had to change. The house across the street from us went up for sale, and we made the like snap decision, we're gonna do it. We're going to try and buy that house and sell her house. Without getting into the details, that fell through on the seller's end, and by that time she had already sold her house and moved in with us. The breaking point for selling her house was she spent Easter trapped underneath a dresser, and I didn't know. That was the final breaking point. So we moved her in here with us. We set her up in our bedroom and we moved into the dining room. We haven't seen it before. That's why this is still such an awkward space, because ever since we moved the bed out of there, we've just sort of left it. If I can find a picture, which I might not this late at night, but if I can find a picture of how we kind of set it up, I'll put one in. While my mom lived here, she began a treatment that doctors were calling a miracle. They were saying that she was headed towards her best season of life ever. So instead of looking at putting her in an assisted living facility, which so many people were suggesting, my mom was really young, really independent, and she was so full of life that would have just drained her spirits, and it absolutely just wasn't an option for me personally. I just knew that it wasn't for her. Once the house across the street fell through, we really didn't know what we were going to do. That house was set up perfectly. It was already set up really well for a senior citizen and somebody who was disabled. It was just perfect. None of the other houses in this area are like that. They're all quite old, tiny hallways, a lot of upkeep, big yards, things like that that we didn't want to have to tend to. So that's why it took so long of her living here before we actually were able to move her into her own house. And I never talked about that process, but we were just trying to figure out what we were going to do, considering possibly remodeling this house to fit all of us, or moving into a house that we would need to remodel that would fit all of us. Within that 2 years and the hope of her having the best season of her life yet to come, we just started making happy plans. We knew that we wanted to live close together so that she could experience as much of her grandchildren as possible. She always wanted to be the best grandma in the world and like take them on Saturdays and make them secret care packages and send them on treasure hunts and let them do her makeup, which she did even when she was bedridden. That was one thing she could still do. She was going to show me how to garden, which she always wanted to do when I was little and I had no interest, and now I was super excited about. So for the first time we were going to have that together, and we were going to take classes at the community center on how to can together. All of these happy plans, it's what we had. It was our hope in front of us. In that time, we found an answer of being able to buy a small plot of land that was close in our neighborhood that had a dilapidated building on it. We paid to tear down the building, we paid to dig out a new foundation, we paid for everything as if it were new land, had to run water lines and all that stuff, quite expensive, and build a custom house for my mom on it. So the house that you've seen Jesse in and everything, that is custom, it was built for my mom. While that was all happening, we found black mold in our bathroom, and I made a video about this. We had amazing strangers who had never met us, just good Samaritans who had heard about us through friends, came in and tore our bathroom down to the studs and removed all the black mold. The bathroom, as you've seen when like Scarlett was singing her little Cinderella song and everything, it still isn't finished. During all this, for Ryan's perspective, yes, the man is a dream. He lived with all of this, had absolutely no complaints, never complained once. Not once. He was working 3 jobs. So for him to have time to finish the bathroom just didn't happen. And then when we did have time together, I wanted family time and I wanted to do things and I wanted to enjoy ourselves because everything else was so stressful. So the bathroom just didn't get done. Still isn't. While my mom's new house was being built, she continued to live here. And that's how I knew about the coding changes that were going to be taking place in our area, because we were building for her. Apparently those coding things haven't even taken place, and maybe they might not, and who knows what. The whole dealing with the city thing, I get it. I see why people have their marriage strained. So Ryan and I really like our neighborhood. It's a small house, but we have a wonderful community here, and so we didn't really want to leave. If we could expand this house and have a second floor and make it bigger and we could have all the babies we wanted to have, that would be the dream. But since that's not possible, we decided just to take the money that we had and bump out as much as we could to gain as much space as possible so that we could expand our family a little bit with little Luca. I used to call the kitchen the closet because there isn't an actual coat closet in this house, and I was like, that's the closest we're gonna get to it. It basically was the size of, you know, a nice walk-in closet. So the difference that we were able to get is huge. And honestly, the only thing that I was worried about with living with the subfloor, because I knew we were gonna live with it for a couple years, was you guys. I was like, what are they gonna think? And I don't know how to explain it to them, and I don't know what to say. Nobody cared. Nobody judged me. Nobody said anything. You guys are the absolute most amazing little pocket of internet community that exists. You are this magical lump of warm comfort. You are my cup of happy. I actually put that on my business cards when I went to Vlogger Fair because I was thinking of you guys. It's my cup of happy. I just wrote bits and clips, a cup of happy, because I needed a tagline. The grandma's candy bowl analogy of comfort is strong in you people. So now that you know all those pieces, let's bring it back to where I was coming from with sharing the kitchen changes with you now. There is a really dark layer to the season of life I'm in right now because this is my first Christmas without my mom, and I'm an only child, so we were extremely interwoven together. The things that I'm going to be doing in there are things she would have loved to do and we talked about, and all those happy dreams that we wanted to have that aren't able to happen now. So sharing it with you was kind of my way of taking that focus off of something that I would have like delighted with in her, and having it be about you guys and my cup of happy people. That's why I shared it. I did not expect that you guys would sort of read through all of these lines and this backstory and all the stuff that you know about me and want to reach out so supportively. I mean, some of you have offered your husbands to come build kitchens for me, even though you live probably across the other side of the world, and I have no words for any of that. What I can say is that we are so joy-filled. My cup is so full, it's flowing over. The whipped cream and the cherries, there's too much of them. It's all too much. We don't need anything. I really, really wish that I could see my mom's reaction to it. She and I used to drive around and she'd point at houses and say, "Oh, I just wish that for you, baby," in these big, beautiful houses. I miss my mom a lot. And one of the hardest things is that she didn't get to enjoy her new custom house. She never even unpacked the boxes. We had a bed set up and I cleaned up her room and made it as nice as I could, but she was very sick with pneumonia and struggling to recover from that, and the good season never came. The garden never got built until after she was gone. And it's really hard for me to know that she spent her last season of her life in this, waiting for the good to come. Ryan, of course, has a beautiful perspective of how she spent the last season of her life surrounded by her grandchildren, how she did get to see them and she made it to see Luca. That's a really hard perspective for me to have. I just feel like she got gypped and that we got gypped. There were so many happy things ahead. I mentioned once about her not making it home, and somebody on Instagram gave me kind of a silly, like, "Silly Marie, of course she made it home." Yeah, I need that kind of stuff. And that's what you guys have done for me. I definitely sink really low when I'm trying not to feel gypped. But the support that's around me with my husband and you guys is so warm that joy just constantly overrides everything else. Because of you, I'm smiling involuntarily as I talk about heartache. That says a lot. I hope you guys can read between the lines of what I mean with that. You guys know that I'm really strong on my faith, and I daily wonder what my point or purpose is on YouTube. And it just sort of hit me tonight with the way that you guys are to me, that maybe it's more for me to be affected by you than for you guys to be affected by me. Knowing that each one of you is a part of this community for a reason, and that you've been handpicked and given to me in my little cup of happy. What a gift! You're a blessing, and God is working through you in my life. I think I'm gonna offer a Q&A. If you guys have some questions about things that relate to some of the holes I've left off, then you can ask them. I really respect you guys a lot, and I'm happy to continue the conversation if there's any places that you still feel like you still are a little confused by. Okay, you choose. Luca's birthday video or a weekly bit. It's up to you. Mwah. My feet are asleep. Good night. I'm going to leave that hint just the way it is and see if any of you guys come up with the same idea that I have.